everyone, and welcome to our new series called Brand New Review. This is where we review some brand new games that are either right coming out or maybe coming out in the near future.
That includes Kickstarter campaigns and other things like that.
Yeah, both of us really enjoy indie games, and one of our favorite things is trying to get, boost these smaller companies, and so we really like to focus on that. However, we can't not do Arc Nova, so we have to do the big names too. But today we're going to start with a game that we actually recently backed on Kickstarter called Nut Hunt by Pine Island Games.
Nut Hunt. It's a area control kind of game, route building as well, but it's very chaotic. There's a lot going on that constantly changes the state of the board. And there is a die that is rolled at the beginning of everyone's turn. Right,
so there is a bit of randomness to it. It is 1 to 5 players. I think ideally 3 to 4 is what I would say. 5, it's got a little bit of, it's got a forest hex board that actually is randomized, which is kind of cool, but it gets a little crowded with 5 people. I think 4 is probably the magic number there. Because you want some people to crowd in so it really can get pretty chaotic, but you still want some room to move.
Are there less tiles used with less players?
No, it's the same forest size.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I could see 3 or 4 being good. 5, it took a lot longer than we were expecting or planning.
Yeah.
We did record a playthrough of it, which we recorded outside. So it got a little bit later, and I think if you watch it, you'll notice the sun kind of eventually starts setting.
Right. I think learning the game took a little bit longer than usual, but it is really light. It was easy to learn and to teach. I think the teach itself took like 10 minutes or so, and that was me teaching, and I'm not good at it. So I think it's something that anyone can pick up on. It's something the whole family can play and enjoy, but it does have some strategic elements to it.
It does have some strategy in there, but there is a lot of chaos. And I won't say it's necessarily randomness, because yes, there's some of that, but there's also the strategy, because when the die is rolled, the forest fox character, he moves to a certain direction based on the die. But then if he lands on a hex with any number of squirrels, that's where you get to start choosing which direction to fan out from.
They scatter.
And yeah, they scatter out. Now, the only restriction is you can't go where the fox came from. And there's one hex that you can't ever go on, which is the pond. But other than that, that's where you have to sort of, sometimes you want the fox to come there so that you can repurpose one of your squirrels to a new tile. And other times you really don't want it to go there, but there's not a whole lot of control over that, save for one action that a player can do, which is the hassle action.
Right, so with the hassle action, if you're right adjacent to a fox with one of your squirrels, you can actually use the squirrel to goad the fox to the squirrel's hex, which does scatter the squirrel, but it does give you an extra nut, and also if you do want to scatter the squirrel, it can actually push you in the direction you want to go.
Yeah, so it's almost like you have to plan in advance a little bit of where you can place some squirrels that can eventually get moved out based on, I think the center of the board tends to be mostly where the fox is going to end up.
Yeah, he's always going to kind of bounce back towards the center.
Yeah, and in ours, he kind of goes back and forth a couple times and then left and right a few times, back and forth. And I felt that, at least in 5 players, that's a lot of turns there were people going, well, there's only 1 or 2 spots available to place a new squirrel.
Again, 5 player is a bit...
And I think that's a big restriction, because then you're stuck either drawing objective cards or hoping that you can hassle. But again, you're limited to doing that action if it's next to you.
I would say one of the drawbacks I kind of felt like is if you are not super interested in a whole bunch of randomness in your game, the die roll does, it really kind of dictates how the game is going to go. And so I would actually suggest maybe trying a game out where you move the fox on your turn where you want the fox to go. So there's still, everyone is moving it themselves, and it's kind of hard to still do what you want to do. But there's less randomness, and so you can figure out what you want to forage and that kind of thing. Give it a try. It might work.
Maybe. That's certainly, we're talking house rules on a game that hasn't come out yet, but
True.
It's going to take more plays, and it's certainly trying the different player counts to see, how it really meshes out overall. I'm sure it's one of those things where over a dozen plays, it's like half the time that the randomness becomes a bigger factor.
But it is a game I'd like to play again. And honestly, the randomness isn't all that bad. It's just something you have to account for. You know?
You just kind of have to adapt a little bit. I think that this game has a lot of replayability because of the the way that all the tiles can be, arranged differently every time that come out randomly, and the fact that it is the fox does move around just randomly, like you never really know how to expect a game to go.
Yeah.
But on the downside, if you are expecting like a very strategic plan ahead type of moves, there's not a whole lot here that lets you plan ahead too much.
Right.
That can be a turnoff, and I don't know.
I mean, okay, so let's get the final thoughts then.
Okay.
I would say it is, like you said, it's a light game, not too much crunch to it. It's something that, again, a lot of people can play, especially family, younger members of the family, that kind of thing. So honestly, I would be down to play it again, and I would bring it into like family gatherings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I already backed it, and I'm going to keep it. So,
I thought it was fun. I think for me, it's one of those games where you never really know who's ahead or who's winning. There's so much secret information as far as completing these objectives, which are essentially paths, like a Ticket to Ride type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you have no idea what they're completing, and it's not like Ticket to Ride where you just play the card when you've done it. You have to keep those routes throughout, because at the end of the game is the only time those can score, and if they don't, they're negative points. And so not knowing how everyone's doing throughout, and not necessarily knowing if you're going to make it by the time the game ends, I find that a little bit challenging for me as a gamer to kind of appreciate, other than just the fact that it's just kind of everyone's chaotically doing what they can. I would prefer it if there was a little bit more control. I would say, if, like Steven, if you're looking for a game to play with the family, like get together, not necessarily strategic for like heavy gamers or anything like that.
Sure.
You might enjoy this, especially if I think even if you're newer to games and modern gaming, this is very accessible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So check it out.
So that's Nut Hunt. And as of this taping right now, it is live on Kickstarter, and it's going to be out for another week. It's got 7 more days before it closes. It's good price, and honestly a good pickup.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Steven.
I'm Jared.